ever wonder why people are getting onto your email list but not taking the next step to buy your product or service? You're probably missing out on the consideration stage, and we are going to help you define how you can become really clear and concise on it in this video. In the customer journey, there are 3 phases. These 3 phases are awareness, consideration, and decision. Now, we previously have spoken about the stages of awareness. We went through those, really gave you specific examples of how to create content based on the stage that they are at. So if you haven't already watched that video or listened to that podcast episode, you're going to want to make sure that you do so. We're going to link to that in the description as well as link to it right above in the video. So when we are talking about the stages of consideration, it's important that we understand they are past the problem seeking stage. Now they understand that they have a problem and they are seeking the solution. They are doing the research. They are going out there looking to find the answer to their problem. So it's important that when you're creating content for this stage, that you keep that in mind when we are talking about the consideration stage. When it comes to the consideration stage, there are specific actions that your audience is taking. Now remember, we already talked about that it's different than awareness in the fact that they are seeking the solution. So right now, when they are in this phase of consideration, they are actively doing research. They are trying to find the whole problem, the solution for it. They're not looking at little pieces of it. They're doing research, trying to compare programs that are out there, trying to know the difference between what you offer compared to what someone else offers. They are wholeheartedly ready to fix the problem that they have, and they are at this point where they are seeking the solution. So it's really important that when you're putting out this type of content, you think about where you are going to find these people. How are you going to communicate with them? It is very likely that you're not necessarily going to find them randomly on social media through a reel, because as we know, a reel is where most people are getting a first touch with you. That's more the awareness stage. Consideration is really going to happen on your website as well as through your email. There are specific types of content that you should be creating during the consideration phase. Now, one piece of this is potentially a webinar, a more intense workshop that's going to show that you can give them a little bit of a transformation and that you actually have the entire solution for them. So a webinar, a workshop, a challenge, something where they are becoming more involved with you and getting a little bit of a transformation. You also will find that content that compares your product potentially compared to another product that will work really well. So a comparison guide would work well for this, where you're actually potentially creating content via your blog posts, your podcast episodes, your YouTube videos that you're comparing to different programs, yours to something else. And of course, you want to be careful when you are doing this, because of course you don't want to run into any issues with defamation or saying anything negative about another product. So what I would make sure that I do is not necessarily name the other product or service that you are comparing to, but just state that it's another program that is aiming to fix their problem. This is going to be key when you go to try to compare them. So when you're in this stage, you really want to make sure that you are showing them exactly the transformation that they are going to get from your product or service. This is where we want to go over the top, making sure that our sales pages are very clear and concise and show them how we are going to be the guide so that they can fully solve the problem that they have with your product or service that you offer. It's also important that during the consideration stage that you are making sure that you are empathizing with them. They see that you have solved the problem potentially for someone else or even for yourself, and they are
seeing that you empathize with the problem that they have because you've solved the problem for someone else or even yourself. Now, one of the great places to make sure that you are doing this through your messaging is going to be a nurture sequence or a sales sequence via email. This is where you can really dive into some of that myth busting, really showing them the research of how your product or service is going to make sure that it solves their problem. It is also a great opportunity to be able to use testimonials of past clients or students that have had the transformation that they needed through your product or service. So when you are creating the messaging for your emails or for your sales pages, you want to make sure that you obviously identify that you've gone through this, that you've helped others do it, and that you understand that it's a problem. But you want to show them how you can be their guide, not necessarily going to be the main character in their story, but the guy that is going to help them get to the transformation that they are ideally looking for. This is going to be key in getting them to the next phase, which is going to be that decision phase. So when you are thinking about consideration, really start to think about how can you make sure that your personal stories are coming out, any sort of testimonials that you have from previous clients or students is going to be really important in this stage so that they can see the transformation that others have gone through as well as potentially yourself.
Some of the tools that you are going to be using for this, you're probably using in every day, but it's going to be specific. You want to have your email marketing software, making sure that you're using automation. So there's a nurture sequence, or also known as a sales sequence, that's really going to walk them through the transformation that you are creating for them. You also want to make sure that if you have any sort of webinar equipment that you are using, it can simply be Zoom, that you are doing a webinar for them or a workshop or a challenge so that they are participating in it and starting to see that that transformation can easily come through with your product or service. That is where these tools are going to be really efficient. It's also important not only that you are looking at your email and also potentially webinars, but making sure that your sales pages are set up to make sure that the messaging is very clear, that walks them through that empathetic journey that you are going to take them on to get their ideal solution so that their problem is fixed. It's also important that you're making sure that you are using keyword research for SEO in this stage. Because when you are creating your sales pages, you want to rank for certain keywords. You also want your content to make sure that it continues to really explain how your program is going to benefit them. And using keyword research and SEO principles is going to help you make sure that they see it.
Now, when it comes to the metrics, because we always want to make sure that we talk about the numbers when it comes to this as well, is that in the consideration stage, you want to be keeping an eye on your email metrics. What is the open rate? What is the click rate? What are they actually making sure that they engage with and then take action from so that you can make sure that you replicate that for other pieces. You also want to make sure that you're paying attention to time on page. How is that page? Are they staying on it? Are they going through and reading the entire sales page? Are they only reading bits and pieces? Or where are they potentially abandoning cart? All of this is going to be important in understanding whether or not your messaging is in line with the journey that you need to take them on to see that you are the right product or service for them in order to solve the problem that they have. Now, the consideration stage is really key to taking the next step with your audience because now we're not going from awareness anymore. They obviously know that you are out there, but now we are going from, yes, this is what I'm really thinking about, that this could be the right product or service. They're doing a deep dive, trying to better understand what it is that you offer and the expected transformation. It's going to be key that your messaging is in line in order to do this. Now, I appreciate you so much for listening in. I would love to know in the comments what you are using right now in the consideration stage. Are you using your email marketing? Are you doing a webinar? Are you creating a challenge? Is your sales copy on point with your messaging? Let me know in the comments so that we can make sure that we can define this and really make sure that it is clear and concise for your audience so they can make that next step into the decision stage, which we are going to have for you in a future episode.